This book I've read is one of the best books I've read as far as practical, implementable, essentially lessons and chapters I've read forever. Well, I would say top two or three. The books of all the books I've read, this probably is the top two or three books that I have read. It's completely about practical tips and easy tips to follow. Now, this book is written by Dan, who has run and created SaaS IT companies, and it's mostly written for entrepreneurs or business owners. But in my opinion, from reading this book, many of the tips or the principles he shares on how to buy back your time and make the team or the company more efficient applies to any leadership roles within any company. If you're leading a team or building a team within a company, many of these lessons apply there. Because in practicality, some of the stuff I have implemented and it has worked in my workplace. And I also did it a little bit in my real estate, Airbnb, the side hustle I had. I don't do it anymore, but when I had it, I kind of implemented his principles, some of his principles. What I would say is if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, read this. If you do not know about these concepts, you definitely have to read this if you want to grow your company tremendously without you being there. So if you're being a business operator versus owner, operator is one who has to be there all the time. As Tony Robbins says, versus owner, you don't have to be. Somebody else is doing all the things. You're just being there, monitoring things, or being there a few hours a day or hours a week, maybe even, or barely any. One of the examples he gives is, I believe, I forgot the name, but the Virgin Air owner, Branson. I forgot why my mind blanked, but he owns 400 businesses. And guess what? He's always playing around and having fun most of the time. If you see social media, barely works. That's because he has learned how to operate well under his time. He also gives example of Oprah, who is in some of the heat lately with some of our Hawaii things. But the fact of the matter is she built a company that's $1 billion or $3-4 billion media company that she barely puts in 2 or 3 hours a day, most of the time spent doing other things than working actively doing the business for 8 to 10, 12 hours most people tend to do. So overall, I don't care if you own a business or not. If you're in leadership, you're trying to build a team, you're working in a corporate world, trying to build this efficient team, perhaps leading a team, I would say this book is definitely worth reading even for you. Then even if you have no interest in building a business, this book definitely helps somebody think differently about creating systems and processes and figuring out how to help a team grow or team operate more efficiently. There's obviously a lot of tips about if you're a business owner to figure out what one of the big tips he gives is if it doesn't excite you, drains you, then find a way to somebody else to take over the business or the work or the particular job. And he gives you a formula on how to calculate how much to pay the person. It's whatever money you earn for that particular business or particular work, and then you make through that work and you're spending time on, you just have to calculate how much money you're making and how many hours are you spending on that task divided by 1,000 hours divided by 4, and then calculate the hourly amount you can pay somebody to replace you to do that job. There's a great formula I give. So that's how you calculate and make sure, hey, if I can find somebody who can do this work and replace me and do the highly productive things that I am really good at and that excites me, and I rather do those, and then keep replacing myself with all the menial tasks based on the money I'm making and where I can be more productive, whereby I can actually build more businesses. Instead of working on one business, I can build multiple businesses or scale the big much bigger business because I am doing the most highly productive work. I think it's the same thing in leadership role. If you can build a team that operates without your help, does a great job, then you grow and then you go get promoted in most normal cases. In my case, it didn't happen. That's different. Most normal, if you have a great leadership above you, that will notice that. People other outside the company notice it. So either way, it works great. It can help you in other cases. I know I haven't done it the way Dan has said. I've done a fairly good job of basically taking myself out of micromanaging the team and letting the team manage itself mostly, giving leadership roles to people to manage the team in certain aspects. That way I don't have to spend a lot of time trying to manage individual tasks. And that frees me up to have multiple teams. I actually did multiple teams in my case, and without much effort, barely spending any time. So if one can do in that business, if your business is making money and time is an issue, then you should definitely highly, highly recommend reading this book and understanding how to do that. But even if you're doing a job in a leadership role, managing people, leading people, learn how to do it better and grow the team, maybe get your work down low and build more leadership through this, giving people more ownership. Highly, highly recommend reading this.